Hey there everyone and welcome back. So, we want to talk about the collections in this movie. So what is a collection? Honestly, collection is just a collection of anything. Like, let me first bring up my editor out there. And collection is simply a collection of anything that you have learned so far. It can be a collection of integers, might be a collection of strings, or whatever you like to have. And I do like the idea of the swift3 of simplifying the things. Now we have just three types of collections out there: the array, set, and dictionary. Yes, we have the availability of the tuples and out there, but that's gonna be a talk for another day, a very deep talk. So we do have collections, and in this movie we are only going to focus on the array. That's why it says array. So before we move on how the array looks like, how we declare them, let me talk about one more thing. Now for those who are coming from the Objective-C, let me just tell you a good news that yes, the NS array class is still out there, the foundation class, and if you do want to use it with your Cocoa or something, you can use that. Feel free to bridge it with the NS array, it's still bridgeable. Okay, coming back, first thing is, are the array mutables or not? Now again, the things like NS mutable, NS immutable, or not mutable, everything is completely gone in the Swift. All it depends in var and let. Var simply means it's editable or mutable, or it can change, and let simply means it's a constant, it cannot change. So how do we define an array? That's the important question here. So let's just say I call it as var my array, and you use square brackets and then a pair of parentheses. And the square bracket, you do write the syntax. So this is going to be a collection of integers, so that's why I define it as int. If I want to use a string or maybe doubles, I just write a double inside that. Make sure that the first letter is the caps. Okay, let's define one more. So I'm gonna say one more, and this is gonna be an array. Now you might be thinking, how do we add the value? And I'm gonna show you a method which is going to have an error first, and then we're gonna solve it. So you might be expecting things like, oops, it says could not be saved. Okay, no problem in that. I'm gonna click on, let me first open up my box out there, and in a minute, and my exercise files, Swift. And the problem is my previous movie got crashed, so string1 array is already out there, so I just need to delete this guy, I guess. So move to trash, and now I can save this. Oops, the file doesn't exist. My bad, completely my bad. Wait for a minute, I need to create a new playground and call that array. Next, and save it here. And I can actually get rid of this because I do have some things here. So where we were just trying to have this. These error happens with the beta, no problem at all. But in this case, it was completely my fault. So what we were calling it, my array, I guess. And we were using int and pair of parentheses, and we were talking how to fill up the values of the array. And we did created one more, and I was trying to show you an error, and error is simple. Now you might be expecting how to fill up the values in the array, and you might be expecting a syntax like 1 2 3 4 5 and just like that. This is error, it's gonna show up, and there we go. Now this is a unique error because you do need to add one keyword here, and let's add that keyword. It's an array literal. So this is the keyword. Every time you want to use some values inside it, you have to use this keyword, array literals, or what are the values you want to initialize it. That's how you go out here. So this is another important keyword which is introduced out there. It's actually good. It defines your language a little bit more. And let's say you want to add more values to it, so for sure you can do. And it's gonna be simple. Let's just call it one more, and there are a couple of methods by which you can do so. So let's just say append, and it says new element. So what is the element that you want to have here? Let's just say 9. So there we go. And if I just say show me one more, and we can see 9 is out there at the end of it. So this is an easy way to add up simple elements inside your array. And there is one more method by which you can create an array with the default elements as well. So let me call it as default, and default values, because default is a keyword actually. So let's just call this. Now what you have to do is really simple. You have to use array, and this is a method, but it does come with a couple of things. So there we go. This is what I'm looking for. It says repeating element and the count. So my repeating element is gonna be the particular value which I do want to repeat. Let's just say it's gonna be 2.2 randomly, and it's gonna be a double, and there we go. So we have created a default array with the double, but bear with me, it's not yet done. Oops, because I did mess with the count. It should be like 5 elements I do want to create, and notice the 5 elements of 2.2 is being created. So that's a very good method. I found this really useful, because many times I do want to initialize arrays with that. So I was using my loops and logics like that to fill up an empty array with 5 values or 10 values. Now they are giving me this choice by default, and that's good news for me. Okay, and one more thing, arrays are addable, so you can do add default values and one more array as well, and they can combine and can add to a new array as well. That's completely easy and completely doable. Now let's talk about the strings as well. Let's create an array with the strings. So let's just create var, and let's just call it as my planets. Okay, so I'm gonna have a list of planets, and this is gonna be a new thing. It's gonna be type inferred as strings. So let me do this. This is another method, and there we go. And now I can actually initialize it with the default way of which you are actually quite familiar with. So I can say Pluto, comma separated. Let's include Earth here as well. Favorite, all of us. Okay, and let's call it as Jupiter, and let's add one more for the time's sake, and there we go, Saturn as well. So this is the list of my planets, and I'm completely happy with that. And in case I do want to add something into it, or let's just say count elements, how many elements do we have here? So let's just use a print, and I would be saying there are, and let's just say how many elements I do want to count. So again, string interpolation, and it's gonna say my planets. Oops, not my array, please. My planets. And there is a default method of count, which is gonna count us the number of items in the array. There are this much of planets in the list, and there we go. It says there are 4 planets, and we can obviously verify that. It's pretty easy. So there we go. We have learned how we can count the elements. And yes, the thing that we have seen in the previous movie, is empty, is also valid, and you can check out it for my array dot is empty. It's gonna return us a value which is gonna be either true or false. In this case, it will be true. Okay, so we can see is empty is working out there. There are a couple of more methods like append and things like that, so that are also gonna work. Now lastly, I would say second lastly, because I do want to show you loopings as well. So you can remove any element from that as well. But again, in order to remove, your array should be variable. It cannot get started with the let. You have to use a var out here. So let's just say from one more, I want to remove this 5 or the 5th or the last element out there. So how do we do that? So let's just say one more dot, and there are a lot of methods, like we can see append and all of this. I have a remove at as well. On what position you want to remove, you have a remove all as well, you have a remove last as well. As obviously we can see, it's just gonna remove the last value, which is it says and could not be saved. Okay, let's just finish the movie and I'll sort it out later on. I'm gonna copy this everything so that I can actually create a new file out there. Okay, so once we have done this, let's try to do one more thing. Let's try to loop through every planet. So looping is pretty easy, very easy with the for each loop. In fact, in all of my courses, I do recommend to use for each loop, for iterating over array, and now they are forcing us to use that. That's a good news actually. So I can say for planet in my planets, oops, not the array, my planets, and I can, let's just say I'm printing the planet. There we go. And we are gonna get all of these elements. So you can see it's pretty easy. Let me just drag it a little bit and we can see the planets list: Pluto, Earth, Jupiter, Saturn. So always, and obviously it's a very obvious thing that I forgot to tell you, that arrays are zero based index. So the first element is actually the 0. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2 and 3. So technically we have a counting till 3, but we have 4 elements because 0 is in the game as well. And just to verify this, I would like to, let me just copy this and paste it out there, and let me just show you the things out there. Okay, so what I will do, I'll add a pair of parentheses here because it is allowed, and I'll call this as number or index comma planet, and it keeps a track of the index, so I can print out index and values as well. And I'm gonna say for, let's use a string interpolation here instead of this, and there we go. I'll say index is, and then in the string interpolation I'll use index, and let's just say colon backslash. For the planet I'll use this method. Okay, it gives us a lot of error, but bear with me, and you have to use one more keyword here that says enumerated. There we go. Okay, a little bit of the coding, a little bit extra codes, and see, it says index is 0, just to prove my point that indexing starts with the 0. So index is 0, 1, 2 and 3. On index 0 we have Pluto and everything, but yes, you do have to use extra keyword like enumerated. The index here, it can be pretty much anything, but it should be same here. That means it should be same here as well. So you got my point, how the arrays are useful. They are quite useful, and always try to use the for in loop in other languages as well. In the Swift you do not have a choice anything else other than the for in loop or for each loop.